You are listening to Peak One Sports.
Happy Saturday, happy Derby Day, happy Star Wars Day, and welcome to the Leadoff on the Peak One Sports Network. I'm Ashton with Tony and Landen, here to get you ready for your sports weekend. What's going on, guys?
And happy Mavs to the second round day.
Yeah, would that technically be yesterday? I don't know. Kind of late.
And that was such a good game.
Yeah, we're
outside of the second quarter where they just kind of they changed the pace of game that the Mavs were playing and let the Clippers get back into it. Other than that, for three quarters, the Mavericks dominated the Clippers.
Yeah, it was a really dominant game. Yeah, it was. I can't remember what I was doing, but I kind of walked out of the room for a minute. I think they were up 10 points or something, but I walk in, Harden makes a shot, and they're up 52-50. Or 52-51, whatever. I'm like, what the crap? Right before halftime.
And on a night that Luka had such a rough night, I mean, he couldn't buy a basket. I mean, I think he still ended up with 20-something points.
He had a really good third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, he did. I think he had 1 3 in the game, and that didn't come until the third quarter. Kyrie only had 2 points in the first half. And then comes back and scores 20 some odd points, well, maybe 30 points out of it. He had a incredible second half.
Yeah, no, it was a great game. We'll dig a little bit more into it here in a second. Thank you for tuning in, however you're listening. But first, we're gonna do a couple of these live spot sponsor shout outs. Could say goodbye to unruly behavior and hello to a well-mannered pup. The Dapper Dog Academy stands out as a top-notch canine training institute located in Cleburne and serving the DFW Metroplex. Contact Korri and the Dapper Dog Academy on Facebook or schedule a consultation today. All the info is in the description box below. And also, don't bet with your gut. Check out Betalytics. Get help making your picks using their AI algorithms. Use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up today. Go to Betalytics.com to start betting smarter. And again, thank you for listening. And as we just said, the Mavericks are moving on to the second round after a relatively dominating performance outside of that second quarter. Clippers made a couple of runs, but never really got it all that close after halftime. They beat Los Angeles 114-101. Talked about Luka. He scores 28, but Kyrie is the star of this game. He scored 30 points and then some ridiculous shots late in that game, including a 4-point play. Well, I know he was fouled. I don't know if he completed. I don't remember if he completed the 4-point play. I think he missed the free throw, but it was kind of fade away to the side 3-pointer where he was fouled.
That was really the dagger, I think, at that point. Yeah. There were about 2 minutes left in the game at that point.
Yeah, it was like 20 points at that point.
But the Clippers were making a run back. I think at the moment or just prior to that, they were on like a 12-2 run.
Yeah, because the Mavs went in with like a 15-point lead going into the fourth, and I want to say the Clippers got it down 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But the Mavs just wouldn't go away. They kept hitting their shots.
The biggest factor to that game, though, and really this whole playoff run is, and will continue to be for them, is the defense. Their guys off the bench, their defense has been so spectacular. Their bigs down low have been incredible.
Yeah, Lively, Gafford both have really good games. Kyrie played really good defense in that game. I know Luka had foul trouble early, so when Luka is in foul trouble, he kind of lays off a little bit defensive wise. He is dealing with an injury that Jason Kidd said the other day that Luka wouldn't be playing if this was the regular season. Another nugget: teams with Kyrie Irving in the lineup are 13-0 in closeout games. A lot of clutchness coming from Irving. Paul George and James Harden each score 18. I know they even talked about in the broadcast last night, the Clippers, this Clippers team did have the potential to go all the way and win their first championship. So obviously a lot of disappointment. I don't know. I thought it was a good matchup for the Mavericks. I think they were favored to win the series. But just a lot of star power on the Clippers. And yeah, Kawhi was hurt. But I think it was before
I mean,
game
really, I think more
5,
so than
Kawhi,
that,
they were
because
2-0 without Kawhi.
their bench came back up, and they I think kept up with where Kawhi was missing in the lineup.
Yeah.
I think the key factor here is Paul George didn't have. I mean, he had a pretty good night, but he never had that. He never took hold of the game. He never had that moment where, like Kyrie did last night, when it matters, when it's on the line, I'm going to put the team on my back. Paul George didn't do it. Uh, James Harden didn't do it.
That was the
Westbrook.
difference in this.
Why Westbrook is still even playing?
I don't. Yeah.
They would leave him wide open with wide open threes in the corner and dare him to shoot those.
Yeah, daring him. That was the difference in the series, really, though. I mean, because when the Mavericks lost, Kyrie and Luka still got theirs. They still were scoring. Like if you look at the box score, I mean, points wise and stat wise, Luka had relatively the same stats, whether the Mavs won or lost. But that was the difference with Paul George and James Harden mainly. That when they showed up, Clippers won. When they didn't, the Clippers lost.
Yeah.
A lot of disappointment on that end. Moving forward, the Mavs will face Thunder. I think it's a really good matchup for Dallas. The playoffs are usually where experience thrives. Luka, Kyrie definitely have that playoff experience. OKC's a very young team.
But don't knock that. I mean, they're still the number one team in the West. I mean, that's
I mean, they have a lot of talent, and I think that and maybe they proved me wrong. I'm not saying the Mavs would be favored in the series at all, but I think they have a shot better than most years because this young team, I mean, so far they've played good in the first round, sweeping the first round series. So, maybe they will prove me wrong, but I have a lot of confidence going into the series because of the playoff experience the Mavericks have, and OKC being so young, they do have a lot of talent. Possibly an MVP. I think Shai is, third in MVP, with Luka being number 2, but Chet Holmgren, I didn't expect him to play the entire season. I thought he was going to have injury issues just because of his build and frame, but he's proven he
I think in one place that really hurt the Clippers, and you imagine every team's going to struggle with this. OKC is not any different. Is you're going to have to double or triple Luka and or Kyrie.
Yeah.
So what do you do? I mean, you saw last night when they would drop. I mean, there were times they had 4 guys. He would come into the paint, 4 guys collapse, and he's got 3 open guys in the corner.
Yeah.
What can any team do to combat that? As long as the Mavericks can continue. I mean, the court vision of Kyrie and Luka is incredible. How can a team combat that? I mean, the Mavericks would really have to shoot themselves in the foot, like Luka having another night like he had last night. I mean, he's going to have to find a way to be more productive, from the 3-point range, and especially if he's injured, we don't want him driving in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of options for the Mavericks. I mean, now that they have centers who can play physical offense, they can play defense now. It's not just shut down Kyrie and Luka, although that's hard enough to do.
Mm-hmm.
We even saw, Maxey. Hopefully he's good to go for this series. He did look like he got hurt there at one point in the game.
Yeah, hopefully he comes back. I think he's a sprained shoulder. He's going to be day to day.
Yeah, he's not your traditional 3-and-D guy, but he can shoot the 3. He can, give you big help. Big as in a big player. Big help. Depending on Lively. Game 1, OKC on Tuesday. So that's going to be a pretty interesting. I know they've played OKC a couple of times in the playoffs, but just about a 3-hour drive between. So I think you're going to see a lot of Dallas fans in Oklahoma City. a lot of Thunder fans in Dallas. I think it's going to be good because that's interesting that rivalry hasn't really taken off because Oklahoma City and Dallas were really good there for a few years, making the playoffs, battling. Like I said, they Oklahoma City lost to the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals the year the Mavs won the championship.
Yeah.
The next year, Oklahoma took them out in the first round. I hope they get. I mean, because Oklahoma City is obviously on the rise. The Mavericks do have a lot of young players as well, where they should be pretty good for a while. So hopefully, this is a good start to nice little rivalry with them just being right down the road. Really.
Yeah.
Let's stick with the NBA. There's been a lot of first round disappointment in the West, the Clippers, Lakers, and Suns all losing. Where I know the Suns weren't really favorited, but I mean, I don't think you expected them to get swept. Do y'all see any musical chairs with some of these stars in the offseason? I mean, you have LeBron questions, is he going to stay in LA? Durant is pretty much all but gone in Phoenix, it seems like. And then Kawhi and Harden, they could stay at the Clippers, but usually when you have this kind of disappointment, you need to blow something up or move stuff around.
Yeah, I mean, you see so much of that in the NBA anyways, in the offseason. I mean, no guys really stick around on teams very long. I would probably venture to say that this is going to be such a disappointment with the Clippers because they had such high hopes that I would I think it's a real possibility that they could kind of blow this team up.
I mean, Paul George is, I believe, an upcoming free agent. There's been talk about him going to Philadelphia. Harden's always kind of that that one that gets out
Who's he not?
first.
Who's he not played for?
Yeah, I mean, but look, in Oklahoma City with when he had Durant and Westbrook, Harden was the first one out of there. Brooklyn, Harden was the first one out of there to go to Philly, and really Brooklyn was, I mean, Harden was
And
the one out of Philly
our team's
too.
going to realize that James Harden on your team does not put you over the hump, does not make you a contender. I think that's a real argument. No, he's not a bad player, but putting
I
him on your
think
team, nowhere has he really proven that he's been a guy that is going to put you over the hump, that makes guys around him better.
I I want to say he can, not knowing the internal struggles of the organizations and locker rooms with Harden, but it just seems like he's bailing out early everywhere. You say he gets traded, whatever, but I mean, in this day and age, the players are running the league.
Yeah.
But it's like everywhere. Like if you when he was in Philadelphia, if you want to say Maxey and Embiid were the other two parts of the big three, so he's had big threes and really everywhere he's gone. Even in Houston, I guess, like if you want to say Chris Paul was a star, back then he was, it was kind of the end of his star legacy, but Harden just kind of goes and then he's out. He's kind of the odd person in some of these big threes where um you talk about Kyrie and Durant, you talk about Durant and Westbrook, and Harden just doesn't really fit well. He puts up the stats. He'll win a scoring championship. I don't think has he won an MVP? I don't think he has.
Yeah, I think so.
He has. Okay, I know he's been the scoring champ a couple of times. But out of all these teams, I know LeBron. Durant says he wants out, but I think Harden's out of there. He just doesn't. That's probably the team that he doesn't have to deal with a lot of like pressure and media because it's a second fiddle in LA, but it's still in Los Angeles. He's still dealing with
Well, to keep it in
some of
Los
them.
Angeles, I mean, do we think it's a real possibility LeBron goes, or does he stick it out?
I don't know how much his son actually being drafted by a team matters. I know he says it matters, and Los Angeles and the Lakers have come out and said they're willing to draft Bronny. I know a lot has been played up because people make fun of his stats at USC. A lot has been played up about how good defense he plays. Um, I think the Lakers are all in to keep him. Uh, I I don't know what that. I don't know if it's like, hey, he's gonna wait and see where Bronny's going. I know that has a lot to do with where he's going. I don't know that that's the end all be all where he plays. There's a lot of quick rumors that he could come to Dallas because he was tweeting about how good Kyrie was playing. And that seems to be where, I mean, all these players, I mean, Kawhi hasn't really chased the super team mantra. I know he kind of was, and he was drafted in San Antonio, but then he went and did his own thing in Toronto, and then goes to the Clippers and gets Paul George to go with him. And I'm not sure about Kawhi, but Harden, Durant, and LeBron have all kind of teamed up places.
Yeah.
They're the really three that haven't. I mean, I know Durant and Harden have been together a couple of times, but it'd be interesting, LeBron, Durant, and Harden, if they go somewhere, they team up in one of these, one of these cities. I think Dallas could kind of be that. I don't want it. I don't want any of these players to go to Dallas. I don't care if Dallas gets swept in the next round. I want nothing to do with LeBron, Durant, especially Harden. I think what we have works. You just need to work on your role players. I don't know. LeBron has a big, I mean, jersey sales and money. Sure, he'll have a big effect in Dallas. But honestly, if LeBron comes to the Mavericks, I think at this point, he's probably the third best player on that team. And no shot at LeBron. He's just older. That's just what's happening. He'd probably be an all-star. He'd probably be a really good player, but I don't feel that, it's a real championship. Sure, I'm not going to say like Durant doesn't have 2 championships. He went like it's the cop-out way for sure. But I'd rather the Mavericks win with what they have and what they're building, not adding LeBron and that puts them over the top, or adding Durant that puts them over the top. I don't think it will, but I would rather them just stick with what they have. It seems to be working now that you're playing defense. Let's see how far they can make the run with this team, and then just add pieces where they need them. I don't think they need another superstar. And I think LeBron, I think Durant, and I think Harden are all on new teams next year. That's gonna be, I guess, my bold prediction. Not really bold. I think everybody can see where I'm going with that. I think the Clippers blow it up. I think, man, I don't know. The Lakers would kind of have to blow it up, right? If
so.
LeBron left,
I think they're one of the teams. I mean, you look at the playoff picture as far as teams that could, because when I consider blowing it up, it's going to be a team that's competing, that's right there on the verge of the other playoff teams. I mean, most of the other playoff teams are really young.
Yeah.
That like they're in the building mode. So
yeah, I don't remember the year, but this is the first time in a long time that LeBron, Durant, or Curry haven't been in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's the new age of the NBA. It's the new era of players, and it's exciting to see that. Really, I mean, that's so cool about the NBA is you get this turnover. I mean, where the older guys do still stick around, they have to find new roles, but you get these young guys in here, and it just slightly modifies and changes the way you watch the game by the way they play.
Yeah, and I think that's where, when you're stacking up superstars, I think it's working in this new way where we had the big 3, and we still have 3, but I think really it's almost like 2 superstars now. But it's not ever, like Durant, Harden going to Brooklyn, where you get there and then you like figure out whose team it is. It's Kyrie going with Luka, and Kyrie taking the second role, even though Lucas says like, oh no, he's Batman, I'm Robin. I think obviously you have to have those mindsets where it doesn't have to be my team, but it's clearly Lucas' team. Kyrie's coming in and he's not trying to, like, he's like, it's Lucas' team. Luka's been here forever, or not forever, but he's been here for a while. I'm just coming in. Whereas, in Brooklyn, I don't think it worked at all because all these all these players, superstars, are coming in at the same time. Harden even a little bit after, where all of a sudden we have these players here and now they're trying to figure out their role. They're trying to figure out, it's not, USA basketball where you just go play, dominate against the world, Like it's real, because I don't think in USA basketball's case anybody cares about who the star is. Like, hey, let's just go win a gold medal. When you're playing in the NBA, you're talking about your legacy. Your legacy in the Olympics is win the gold medal. That's all anybody cares about. Here, it cares about who's the star of this team. What's your role? And I think it's working. We're seeing the new NBA where 2 stars are really what it takes to win. I think 3 stars you're getting a little top heavy, and maybe in the Suns locker room there's not like you want to say this big dramatic that whether Durant's a cancer, whether Harden's a cancer in these locker rooms. It's not necessarily that, but there is maybe like an aggressive tone there where if it's working, great, but it hadn't been working. Like you can.
I think more so what you see is you want those 2 stars, so when one's off, you hope the other one's on, which in the Mavs case,
just like last night,
has been the case. But I think the role players and the defensive guys, I mean, the Mavs are filled with guys with Hardaway and Green, guys that can spot up in the corner and just wait for you to draw attention, kick it out, and you're going to hit a 3. You're one of the leaders on the team in threes. So that's where it is having guys like that and having your bigs that can play defense, that can get aggressive on offense, that can get offensive boards. That's where it's at. That's where teams are going to be very successful and at least have a shot at the finals.
Real quick, let's talk on the Stars. I know none of us are hockey experts here, but the Stars did have a similar situation last night where they could close it out in Game 6 in their respective series. They didn't. It was a really hard fought game against the defending champs. The first goal wasn't scored until the third period, and then Vegas added the empty netter late in the game. I mean, the Stars were up, into that game till about the last 20 seconds, nearly scoring the tying goal a couple of times. So the 2-0 win for Vegas, that's a little misconstrued. It was a really, really close game, hard-fought game, most of it. But Vegas does force a Game 7. They'll play that tomorrow in Dallas. Any thoughts? I know you didn't stay up that late to watch most of the game. Any thoughts on the Stars? Did they lose momentum there, letting Vegas get back in it? I was thinking the Stars were going to win last night, and the Mavericks had a better chance of losing because for some reason when they have their foot on the neck of the Clippers,
well, the road teams in the Mavs series were winning the games.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way. I feel like the Stars still have this one.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, that was a hard-fought game last night. It was 0-0 going into the third period. Like you said, that 2-0. I mean, that looks worse than it was. On a late goal.
Unlike the Mavs, the Stars have not been dominated at all in this series. Neither team has. I think it's been a really hard-fought series. Most experts picked it to go get 7 games, even though I know the seeding works differently, but it was kind of like a 1-8 matchup with Vegas not really being a true 8. I know there's loopholes they work out in how you can work the salary cap where guys are all of a sudden healthy going into the playoffs. I don't pretend to know all about that, but this was going to be a hard-fought game, defending champs, but Dallas did have the best record in the Western Conference, the most points. I feel confident coming home. It's going to be a great atmosphere at the American Airlines Center. I think Dallas is going to get this done. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. Vegas is a good team. But I guess I feel more confident in Dallas in Game 7 than I did with the Mavs going into Game 6. So I think they do move on. But it's going to be a tough
weekend, the AAC, when you have the Mavs clinching on Friday night. And then what do they play tonight or tomorrow?
They play the Stars play Game 7 tomorrow.
So then tomorrow with opportunity to clinch a first round.
And the Dallas Wings really, I know they couldn't yesterday because of the Mavs game, but they almost could have moved their preseason game to the American Airlines Center because that was debut of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, which Caitlin Clark had a heck of a night. I mean, she looked Curry-esque, hitting
ridiculous
deep
shots.
I mean, just throwing
ridiculous
them up.
shots. They did they did sell out the College Park Center in Arlington.
And
It seats
UTA.
about 7,500. Yeah, UTA, about 7,500 people. But I've been to a few. I've covered a few Wings games, and it doesn't sell out much. But they have announced they are moving to another. They're retrofitting. I can't remember the venue, but it is going to be actually in Dallas. They're retrofitting it to up their capacity to about 10,000. Not necessarily because of Caitlin Clark. I mean, maybe an off
Well, I think in general, the
situation of
WNBA
it.
is growing, and you are seeing some bigger stars that are coming into the WNBA, and hopefully that's more attention grows around that sport and women's basketball. That you kind of hope that it takes off, and unfortunately for them, is not a profitable business right now. The NBA fund
Yeah,
keeping
I
that
mean,
around, but you do see them a lot more. You see, you know, I noticed it last night during the Mavs game that all the sponsorships, all the ads that had the NBA tied to it, they also had the WNBA
yeah,
logo.
and,
So you hope that they're growing that, and that's going to become a self-sustaining organization as
yeah,
well.
and I don't know that the Mavericks game kept them from moving that game to the AAC. I don't know. I mean, because obviously when Caitlin Clark was drafted, the Vegas Aces said that when Indiana comes to town, that they're gonna move to the T-Mobile Arena. A couple of teams said that. So I know it's a preseason game; it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But when Caitlin Clark is going to some of these towns that have bigger arenas, they are moving that game to those bigger arenas. So maybe that's kind of the shift. I know eventually the Caitlin Clark part's going to wave off on a lot of people, a lot of the fair weather fans.
Yeah.
But if she can keep putting up some of these ridiculous shots, like you're right, he was Curry-esque, just out of nowhere shots, nearly making. I mean, I don't say nearly it hit the side of the backboard, but she did have an opportunity to make the game-winning shot. And I've never seen that much coverage on a WNBA preseason game. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that works out. Real quick, I know we want to talk about a couple more things. Let's take a shot at the Cowboys here. I'm a Cowboys fan, so it's okay. But let's take a shot at the Cowboys' lack of playoff success. I know that you can say had tons of success in the regular season, one of the best regular season teams in the last, I'm going to say 20 years because they've only had a few losing seasons, and those have to do with either Dak or Romo getting hurt and being out for the season. But a couple of tidbits before we move on. The Rangers, Stars, and Mavs, obviously, they've all won titles since the Cowboys have. All three have also been to multiple championship series since the Cowboys have been to one Super Bowl, their last Super Bowl. The Rangers, 3 and the 2010, 2011, 2023 World Series. Mavs have been to the 2006, 2011 NBA Finals, and the Stars went to back-to-back in a Stanley Cup Finals in 1999 and 2000. And then obviously in the if you want to count the bubble COVID year, they did go to the NHL, the Stanley Cup Final in 2020 when they lost. Other DFW teams also to have more success than the Cowboys. FC Dallas lost in the 2010 MLS final. TCU lost in the college football championship. Even the Arlington Renegades won an XFL championship last year. So come on, Jerry. I mean, I know you do a great job of keeping the Cowboys number one ratings wise, but you're getting passed up by every sports
I mean,
franchise.
it's getting to a point you can't call them America's team
Can't
when
even call them Dallas's team.
when majority of America hasn't seen them win a championship.
For sure. Yeah. I right at this point, you can't even really call them Dallas Fort Worth's team. They better hurry up before our cricket team, our rugby team wins a championship. Or just moves. Really, it's just moving on to the next round. That's what the Cowboys are struggling to do.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just having fun. Okay. We're about to get,
for God's sakes, Landen hasn't seen them win a championship.
I mean, I barely have seen them win a championship. It's pretty ridiculous. I barely remember their last conference championship appearance, let alone that was the same as their last Super Bowl appearance. But Landen in a second is going to get his baseball segment in, but let's revisit this. I think we talked about it last year, but Houston Cougar uniform scandal is still in full swing, according to athlonsports.com. We're going to be referencing an article. It's, if you want to go read the article, it's in the description box right now. Obviously, last season, the team paid tribute to the city's football past wearing an alternate blue uniform reminiscent of those worn by Houston Oilers. I think we talked about it on the thread last year. I'll even pop it up real quick. This is the uniform we're talking about. This is the one they wore last year. Obviously, it's Oilers. I don't know how trademark crap goes. It doesn't say Oilers. It doesn't have the oil derricks on there. It says Houston on the helmet, Houston on the jersey, or it may say Cougars on the helmet. I think it says Houston. But obviously, it's the Oilers uniform. They're paying homage to it. The NFL then sent a cease and desist letter that I think we covered last year also. Sent the letter to the school after its unauthorized use of the uniforms in a game against UTSA last September. I think it was the first or second game.
Yeah.
Despite basically they're profiting on it. If you want more information on why they're profiting on NFL's likeness, I guess.
But
it went into it.
I'm not completely well versed in trademark law.
And I'll get into that how they are thinking they're going to get by at the rest.
It doesn't seem like you can trademark a design. I mean, if not, every football team from Pee Wee to the pros.
Yeah, I talked about it.
Designs, the same striping, the same look.
I talked about it with Dan Boyer when we were at Railroaders Media Day the other day about how you have Pee Wee football teams that are called the Cowboys that have the star. You have here locally, you have high school teams that use the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills logos. I don't know if they're turned around, if they have just different. They change the colors, but for the most part, it's the same logo, and it's the same thing across the entire country with high school and Pee Wee teams. We have with Apogee Grafix, there's a customer who his Pee Wee football team is the Gators, and they have the same colors, the same logo as the Florida Gators. I agree. I don't exactly know how it works. It'll get into here when I'm going to talk about how they can change things up a little bit, and we'll talk about. That's why I'm like that. That's what the problem is. But despite the legal action taken by the NFL, the school plans to move forward with new uniforms that pay homage to the city using a shade of blue called Love You Blue or Love Ya Blue, Luvya blue. They're calling it Houston blue, but it's similar to it's a light blue called Houston blue. The Oilers blue is called Love You Blue. I don't know how you trademark a color either. So they're slightly changing the color. You're designed with the same color. So if you use that Love You Blue, red and white, I guess you're breaking the law. According to the school, the blue shade has long been associated with the city of Houston as a whole, and not only with the Oilers. Cougars athletic director Chris Besman told the Houston Chronicle during their Big 12 spring media day, "We literally have a story we can show. The city uses this. This isn't a reach. This is a layup. We have a very defensible position. We're doing it. We reviewed everything and come to the conclusion that we are going to proceed." Pasman did say that the school is giving the NFL 2 to 3 weeks to respond before it moves forward with plans for the upcoming season. Pasman said, "What I'm worried about now, that it's May. Do we have a year to roll it out the right way, or do a full uniform reveal for every sport and make it a thing?" So it sounds like they're not talking alternative uniforms anymore. They're talking about adding this blue to the school, not to say the school colors, but all athletic teams, basketball, everyone. The Cougars' new baby blue uniforms will likely have to omit the red and white striping. So that's where I was kind of getting where the striping obviously the striping's the same. But then again, how many different stripes do you have on NFL uniforms? I mean, there's only so many you can have, right?
I mean, how many college teams use that same striping pattern? I mean, why didn't the University of Ohio or Ohio State, why didn't they send a cease and desist letter to the Arizona Cardinals for
Yeah,
their design? It looks identical,
because
like,
the helmet and the pants have the same striping along with the jersey, and they have the same color scheme.
yeah,
Um, sure, I get what the NFL's doing, but I they're profiting on it. The University of Houston is, but from a fan standpoint, it's kind of paying homage to it, and it's just making me think of the Houston Oilers more.
yeah,
And then to the Titans wore uniforms the same this year. Like, I get what the NFL's saying, but I mean, it's just a bad look. Nobody's going like, yeah, NFL, go get them. Like, it's like, come on, man. I probably would have in any other situation never watched a Houston UTSA game. I watched most of that game because of the uniforms. So, I mean, I know that NFL doesn't care necessarily about college football ratings, but uh, it's clearly, and we'll give you one more look. See, now that we talked about the stripes, the red and white stripes on the pants, like that's obviously the Oilers uniform when you take the oil derricks out and you put Houston on the front.
I
Uh,
think I think it's a bad move by the NFL to play this in this fashion. I mean, everybody understands the homage they're trying to pay to the Oilers and being in Houston, and Houston is pretty upset about losing the Oilers and losing that, and they feel like they own that design. Like, why do
yeah,
you have to be so? What's the word? I mean, they're being tacky
petty about
about it.
it. Petty about it.
Petty, yeah, they're being petty about, like, hey, this is Houston. Don't be that way. Let them use that.
I mean, compare it to like I don't know. Maybe
Just
it's a
because they did
stretch,
it
but
better than than the NFL did with the Titans,
yeah,
don't blame them.
yeah. And the Titans were being pretty petty too. They wore them against the
And aren't these all Nike
Texans.
uniforms? All of these are Nike uniforms are made by Nike.
Yeah,
Nike didn't see a
you think
problem to bring it up
yeah,
and say, "Hey."
Nike owns it. Well, yeah, it helps Nike out. I mean, uh, but at the same point, if you make a product for somebody and it's exclusively their product, but I mean, they didn't wear anything with an Oilers logo. It's the colors and the stripes. I get it. Uh, just like NBC or ABC can trademark tunes and their jingles,
Yeah.
which I don't. I'm not educated on that. Like, how do you get around it? You change the tone. Is it the pattern? Okay, so I think it's a stretch already, but yeah, if they remove the striping, which I think kind of takes away from the uniform, but I guess if they're making these full-time uniforms, it sounds like that's a possibility and not just a once a year type deal. Um, but I think it kind of takes away like the stripes on the pants make it whole. I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll keep y'all updated on how that goes. Maybe we'll have news pretty soon because they said they're going to give the NFL a couple of weeks to respond before it moves forward with the plans, just to make sure they're covering all their bases.
Yeah. Well, and
Oh,
here's the thing too. Do know this about the trademark is that just because they send that doesn't mean you just have to, oh my God, automatically we got to pull it. You have
yeah.
the opportunity to prove your case where they're wrong
The cease and
about.
desist letter is just a warning before we're going to take legal action. Like,
Yeah.
here's your opportunity to not move forward if you don't want to.
Correct the issue or prove why we were wrong.
Yeah. And I think the University of Houston wants to avoid that if they can by like, hey, we're going to change this. We changed the blue up a little bit. Um, I guess from a spectator's point, we're not going to notice, like, unless you put them right next to each other. Like, I have no problem with them with slightly changing the blue, saying, hey, it's a different color. What do you want us to do? Uh, I guess we'll see. Like, hopefully they can drag it out in court long enough and still wear them because I think it's a good look for the Cougars. I'm not necessarily a Houston fan, but um, it's cool uniforms. All right, Landon, you've been quiet most of the show, so this is your time, your segment to give us an update, your baseball segment.
Open mic night.
The big news out of our area is that Uvalde went to the IL with groin the other day. think he only went like 3 innings before getting pulled in the win. But he got placed on the IL with groin, and then Yuri Rodriguez got recalled.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets brought back up. The
You think that Leiter comes up because of the Uvalde issue? I know they were talking about bringing Leiter back up because they're going to go on a long streak of games almost every day to just kind of make it where they're not putting guys on short rest. But now does that kind of push Leiter jumping in to replace, not to replace Uvalde, but to bring an extra arm in?
I will think he will have to jump up at some point this season to help out. Chris Young was asked in I don't know if it was like interviews or just press conferences, but he was asked about Evan Carter on lefties being 1 for 14 with a walk this season and how he thinks Bruce Poggi is handling it. And it's a pretty long quote, but to sum it up, he's saying that they still have faith in Evan and that he's still super young, so that they believe that he hasn't got the experience with big league lefties yet, and that he likes the way that Bruce Bochy is handling the situation. So I think the Evan Carter situation is going to stay.
Yeah.
He was also asked about Langford's first month.
Oh, yeah.
And pretty much that one was a long quote too, but he just talks about how, like, when you watch the spring training games, like, you expect a lot, and how they think that he's filled the role perfectly how they expected him to.
Yeah, he hasn't blown anybody out of the water, but he's been a solid player. And to go back to Carter, it's sort of the same thing we talked last week about Holiday. It's like, do you leave him up and let him, hit his way out of the slump? There's a line there where you don't want to screw up his mentality, his confidence, but at the same time, that's how you get out of a slump, is you hit your way out of it. Yeah, and Bochy's obviously taking the approach to let him hit it out of it.
I mean, really, it's a weird slump because it's a left-handed pitching slump.
Yeah, versus right-handed.
Fine against righties, but the lefties is where he's struggling. Obviously, he's 1 for 14 with a walk. So that'll get to the point where people will just bring in a lefty late in games.
And I think Bochy would say, let him do it. That's what we want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an odd slump, which kind of makes you feel better. It's like, well, he's got to get out of it. There's just something weird happening. It's not that he sucks against left-handed hitters. He shouldn't. I guess some guys do, but it's just an anomaly. But you're like, this isn't going to be a career-long thing. It's like, let's just get him out of it.
Yeah, you're assuming that they're left-handed pitching machines and left-handed pitchers throwing to him for live at-bats probably every day.
Yeah.
Trying to get him to where he's comfortable. In the whole MLB, the big news is on Friday, a close source to the Padres said that they're finalizing a deal with the Marlins for the 2-time batting champ Luis Arias.
Yeah.
So, according to John Paul Morossi, Miami will acquire right-handed reliever Wosut Go and 3 prospects. Obviously, the Padres will get Arias, who in 2022 hit .316, led the AL in average. Last year, he hit .354 and led the entire league in average. So you're adding one of the best contact hitters to probably win on paper one of the better teams behind the Dodgers. And I mean, last night against the D-backs, they hit multiple home runs. I want to say 4 and a 7-1 win.
The Marlins just seem like they're becoming like MLB's farm league.
It's
like
a weird situation. They don't have a bad team.
Yeah, that's it. Just like, I mean, I know they had a team when Stanton was on their team. They traded him to the Yankees, but it's like Miami's not a small market. It's not like the A's or the Royals or something like that, where, hey, we're not going to be able to retain these players. We're going to trade them and get what we can. It's Miami. Miami should be more successful. Maybe it's just their ownership group or whatever, their lack of commitment. I don't know, but Miami should be able to stack these players up.
Yeah. They had Jorge Soler, who they ended up, I don't know if they traded him or let him go. He's with the Giants now. Obviously, they're trading probably one of their best hitters.
Yeah, I think they're the best hitter on the Marlins.
Away for a pitcher and some prospects.
I mean, that's the way to sell, just to get a haul and then hopefully a couple of them pan out. Like that's how a lot of championship teams are built. But it's like, keep some of your superstars, quit trading them all away. I mean, I know Florida's not exactly the best baseball state, professional wise anyways, with a lot of fans. I don't know if it's a money issue or what the deal is, but they're just trading everybody away.
Yeah.
It seems like they bought a couple of championships and then now they're just like, yeah, we're content.
It's definitely a weird situation.
Yeah, and then the Padres, they're just going to stick with their plan and just keep building their team. I mean, you thought they were going to be really good last year, had a very disappointing year with the firepower. I guess they're just going to stay all in.
I mean, I guess for them, they have to compete with the Dodgers. They have to keep up with the Dodgers, and I think that if they do, because the trade's not finalized yet, but if they do get that trade finalized, that'll be a huge move for them.
Yeah, the Dodgers are favorited. Diamondbacks just went to the World Series. The Giants are always a compatible team. Yeah, you either have to compete or say, hey, we're just going to rebuild for the next 10 years until the Dodgers suck again or whatever, but they'll just go spend more money. It's kind of an odd time for a trade too. Usually a big trade like this is more closer to the trade deadline where Miami could really shop him out a little bit, but I mean, San Diego just taking advantage of it and going ahead and getting the deal done now so they wouldn't have to, bid for him, I guess.
I feel like for who Luis Arias is as a player and how he's been for the last 2 years, it's definitely, I would think that you'd get more.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's, I mean, I understand, like I don't know the Padres farm situation. They have made a lot of deals lately, so I'm guessing it's a little depleted. But still, you're not, usually when you read those articles, they're like, okay, they're the best player in their farm system. They're top 20 in the NBA, MLB and prospects or something like that. And it just didn't seem like it was a very good haul. I'm not that versed into minor league baseball, not affiliated anyways. So it did seem like a pretty low. I thought Arias was, a much better player than what this haul brought in.
Yeah.
Hell, I thought Miami probably could have waited a little while and traded him to the Yankees or something and gotten a lot better players.
Yeah.
Or hell, maybe the Dodgers. Just let the Dodgers go in there and get them. What else you got?
I think that's all I had down in my notes. The Arias thing really is just what.
Yeah,
it
the
topped
big news.
everything. It made. I mean, really, there's no other big stories. Nothing's happening right now because it's that weird point in the season where everybody's just playing baseball.
Yeah, it's not. The season's not new anymore. People are kind of getting into the gist of things. I wanted to look it up because obviously the Rangers lost yesterday. Are they still a game above 500 or at 500?
Yeah, I think
They're still a game up.
Yeah, they ended the month right at 500 or a game above 500.
Mm-hmm. And then the Astros are starting to come back, if you want to call it that. What are they, 13-22? that where they're at? I'm trying to look. They've won a few games. I think they're 500 in the last 10 games.
That's probably going to be the craziest story of this year.
I think the Astros make it, come back and compete because this isn't the AL West isn't a dominating league. I mean, not a dominating division. The Rangers are still right in it. All just a game and a half back of first place with being 17-16. And Landen's computer went down. Maybe
No, just camera.
Oh, camera went down. Yeah, I think the Astros will be fine in the end. I mean, once they get some players back. Disappointed that the Rangers are taking more advantage and trying to, build their lead on the Astros because the Mariners will probably be in it. I don't think the Mariners will stay in first place, but I think it'll be a 3-team race all the way to the end. Obviously, the Angels aren't doing anything. The A's are going to compete. So that's why Astros can't stay that low for that long, right? Am I wrong?
You didn't think so. They have a lot of injuries too, and a lot of star injuries.
Yeah,
that they've been having to deal with. So you assume that once they get their players back, that they're gonna get back to being the Astros that everybody sees.
Mm-hmm.
But the Rangers have dealt with injuries too, and
yeah, the Rangers had dealt with. I saw something. It was like their IL might have the best pitching rotation in baseball with now Evaldi, Bradford, DeGrom, Scherzer. It's like man, if the Rangers could just get their pitchers back, they might. DeGrom will probably get hurt again anyways. But Scherzer should be back in the next few weeks. I know he's making some rehab starts in Frisco. Yeah.
Maybe you can hang off another week on rehab starts when Landen and I will be out there.
Yeah, maybe you could.
Actually, a week from today.
When's his next start? So as long as he pitches, I don't know that he's on a 5-day rotation right now. Yeah, he might if he doesn't pitch in the next couple of days, or pitches today. I don't know their schedule. Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for jumping on joining us. No, y'all guys, the listeners, I guess that's what I'm talking about. Y'all are always on here. But thank you for being co-hosts on the show. I guess I don't give y'all enough appreciation for that.
No, we don't.
Wow, passive aggressive much. Seems like I deal with that a lot on Peak One. Thanks for listening. However you listen, whether on YouTube, Facebook later, if you listen on however you listen to podcast. But tune in every Saturday.
Give us all a follow on Instagram as well.
Yeah, just whatever you do social media wise, at Peak One Sports, we're there. We have some sort of entity on there. YouTube, however you listen to podcasts, we're on there. Whatever vernacular works best. Follow, subscribe, like. Go ahead and do that. And if you don't like us, share us and send us with somebody you don't like also. Make them listen to this. But guys, until next time, we'll see you. I'm Ashton with Tony and Landen. Bye, guys.